Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most complex, staggering, and honestly, historically significant forensic investigations the world has literally ever seen. We're going to dive right into the ominous timeline that set the stage for the Pan Am Flight 103 disaster because, well, understanding how this all started is absolutely crucial to solving what became a colossal puzzle. So, our story actually begins weeks before the tragedy itself. Picture this, October 26, 1988. German police are conducting a raid near Dusseldorf on a group of suspected terrorists, and what they find in the trunk of a car and some nearby apartments is frankly chilling. We're talking blank passports, a small arsenal of weapons, and, this is key, a radio secretly rigged with explosives. Fast forward just a bit. Following some anonymous threats, warnings start going up at U.S. embassies about potential airline bombings. Then, on December 21st, Pan Am Flight 103, a massive Boeing 747 known as the Clipper Maid of the Seas, takes off from London Heathrow. It's bound for New York, carrying 259 people, mostly folks just heading home for the holidays. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this specific device detailed here perfectly foreshadows the terrifying mechanics of what's about to happen. Those radio bombs found in Germany, they used an improvised barometric device hooked up to a short delay timer. If you're not familiar, a barometric timer is triggered exclusively by changes in atmospheric pressure, basically changes in altitude. It's a calculated, devastating trigger engineered to literally guarantee, that a bomb will go off while an aircraft is high in the air. It's a terrifyingly effective tool for anyone wanting to target a commercial jet. Section 1. Disaster over Lockerbie. All right, let's set the scene. Flight 103 has leveled off at 31,000 feet. 5 miles straight down, the quiet Scottish town of Lockerbie is just getting ready for Christmas. The weather is wild that night, super strong westerly winds just rattling everyone's windows. But local resident and police officer Michael Gordon remembered a strange new noise starting to overpower that wind. At first it was just a rumble, but then it grew into this deafening sound like rolling thunder, before escalating into the roar of a jet fighter. As he looked out his window into the dark, he witnessed something unimaginable. Huge, heavy objects were just falling rapidly from the sky right over his town. Michael rushes outside and his entire neighborhood has basically transformed into a nightmare. Houses, lawns, just totally consumed by enormous flames. He later said he actually had to jump around just to keep his shoes from catching fire. But right there, amidst this absolute fiery destruction, he finds something that perfectly captures the tragic irony of this whole event. Sitting right on the ground, totally untouched by the fire, the fuel, or the debris, is a pristine, perfectly intact airline ticket. It just read London Heathrow to JFK. Think about that. The human element of this massive disaster had quite literally fluttered down into his burning street. That single, unburnt ticket represented an absolutely staggering loss of life. 270 people died that night. Every single one of the 259 souls on board the aircraft perished, along with 11 innocent people right there on the ground in Lockerbie, whose homes were annihilated upon impact. Section 2. A colossal crime scene. Right away, investigators knew they weren't dealing with your typical crash site. I mean, look at this extreme contrast. On one hand, you have the cockpit. It was found completely severed, resting 4 kilometers east of the town, but it was incredibly intact. Inside, eerie normalcy. The autopilot was still engaged, the oxygen masks were neatly stowed away, and all the switches looked perfectly normal for a cruising flight. But then you contrast that with the rest of the debris field. The wreckage was scattered over a mind-blowing 2,000 square kilometers. That is an area larger than all of London, and it fanned out in this massive widening cone shape. This stark difference provided undeniable proof right out of the gate. The plane didn't just crash, it catastrophically broke apart mid-air. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer logistical nightmare these investigators were up against. A Boeing 747 isn't a small machine. It's made of more than 6 million individual parts. 6 million! To track down the evidence, they had to deploy over 1,000 police officers and 600 military personnel to just scour the Scottish countryside. And remember guys, this is 1988. There's no GPS on your phone, no modern digital mapping. In fact, they ran out of standard maps so fast that this massive search operation had to rely entirely on taped-together black and white photocopy maps just to grid out the terrain. Crazy, right? Now you might be wondering, why was the damage to the town of Lockerbie itself so absolute? Well, the answer comes down to the number 150, as in 150 tons of aviation fuel. The main chunk of wreckage that hit the town was the left and right wings attached to the center structure, carrying 90,000 kilograms of fuel. All that mass plummeted practically straight down at speeds hitting 500 knots. The sheer kinetic energy of that impact created a massive crater, instantly blowing 1,500 tons of rock and earth right out of the ground. Because that specific impact site was just utterly obliterated by the fuel explosion, investigators knew they weren't going to find the trigger there. They had to look elsewhere, further south along the debris trail, to figure out what actually caused the midair breakup. Section 3. Structural failure or sabotage. So the British Air Accidents Investigation Branch, the AIB, they're facing a massive fundamental question. Why did this plane break apart? See, the Clipper Mate of the Seas was an older jet. It was the 15th 747 ever built by Boeing, 18 years old, with around 75,000 flying hours under its belt. So was it just a simple structural failure? Did an old, fatigued component just finally give way under the stress of flight? Or were those embassy warnings from November actually real, making this a deliberate act of sabotage? To get to the bottom of this, the FBI steps in. They send explosives expert Tom Thurman over to Scotland to team up with the AIAB's Mick Charles, and together they start specifically scanning the fields for blast damage. Now, while the scientists are out there methodically trudging through misty fields, the public speculation is just going absolutely wild. Within the first 24 hours alone, 4 separate groups claimed responsibility for bombing the jet. The media was swirling with rumors that this might be retaliation for a U.S. Navy strike that accidentally downed an Iranian passenger jet about 6 months earlier. And then there were the passengers themselves. Charles McKee, a U.S. Department of Defense worker coming back from hostage negotiations in the Middle East, was heavily scrutinized as a potential target. The media also zeroed in on a 20-year-old passenger named Khalid Jafar as a potential suspect. But here's the thing, while the world is busy chasing rumors and pointing fingers, the investigators are keeping their heads down. They stayed completely impartial, systematically ruling things out, and focusing 100% on what the physical evidence could actually prove. Section 4. The Telltale Pits. Okay, let's move to and see how this builds, because this is where the methodical forensic work truly starts to shine. Just 3 days after the crash, we're talking Christmas Eve, investigators find a tiny 20-inch piece of a luggage container rail sitting in a field. Now, this wasn't just torn metal. It had these really distinct, unusual markings on it. The very next day, Christmas Day, out in a freezing, foggy Scottish farm field, they find the matching piece sticking right out of the mud. They bag it, send it to a British forensics lab, and boom, the final piece of the puzzle clicks. They discover chemical traces of plastic explosives right on those exact metal parts. FBI expert Tom Thurman had a great way of describing this. He explained that when an explosive goes off, the ridiculously hot gases from the combustion process slam into the surrounding metal with such intense, localized ferocity that it causes pitting. He said it's exactly like taking a blowtorch and just barely touching it to a sheet of metal, it instantly melts this tiny, distinct little crater into the surface. By December 28th, just 1 week after the crash, those microscopic craters, combined with the chemical residue, officially confirmed what everyone feared. A detonating high explosive was used. And just like that, the Scottish countryside wasn't just a crash site anymore. It was literally the largest crime scene in the world. Section 5. Rebuilding a shattered jet. What happens next is just a monumental feat of forensic engineering. Investigators gather up all the key wreckage and haul it into this massive 5-acre military hangar. But they don't just dump the metal in a pile, right? They undertake this mind-boggling 2-dimensional reconstruction of the plane. They use the bottom center line of the aircraft as their core axis, and they lay the fuselage out completely flat, like a giant open clamshell. They're putting down lines and tapes on the floor to make a geometric grid, and they rely on the unique manufacturing part numbers stamped onto the debris to place every single jagged scrap of metal into its exact original position. It's like the world's most depressing, complex jigsaw puzzle. So the crucial point is what they actually discovered as this puzzle slowly came together. They ended up isolating a specific section of the forward luggage compartment known as frame 700. See, an airplane's outer skin is bolted to these numbered structural rings or frames, and right there at frame 700, the damage was completely unique. The metal wasn't just torn from aerodynamic stress as the plane fell, it was violently blackened, totally covered in thick soot, and the fractures were impossibly rapid and jagged. Finding this localized, violent shattering was a massive breakthrough. It definitively pinpointed the exact, specific location where the bomb blasted through the skin of the airplane. All right, so we have the blast zone located at frame 700. Now, investigator Peter Clayton has to figure out which piece of luggage actually held the bomb. He's looking at the shattered remains of about 20 identical baggage containers. By analyzing the wreckage they pulled from the southern debris field, which is the stuff that fell first, immediately after the initial blast, he managed to narrow it down to just 2 containers that showed explosive damage. One was a fiberglass container, but it only showed proximity damage, meaning it was near the blast. The other one, a metal container that showed severe, direct blast damage. The ultimate payoff of this incredibly exhausting process all came down to that metal container, designated AVE4041. Investigators cross-referenced the flight's cargo loading manifests, basically the blueprints for how the bags were packed, and determined that container AVE4041 was resting directly behind frame 700 during the flight. By matching the violently shattered, pitted metal of that specific baggage container directly to the soot-covered, blasted structural ring of frame 700, they did it. They perfectly isolated the exact origin of the explosion. Think about that for a second. Out of 6 million scattered parts spread across 2,000 square kilometers, they literally found the needle in the haystack. The sheer willpower, logistical mastery, and meticulous dedication of these investigators didn't just bring clarity to an absolutely devastating tragedy. It really forces us to take a step back and ask, how did solving this seemingly impossible 2,000 square kilometer puzzle forever change the standards of global aviation security and modern forensic science? It's wild to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we will definitely see you next time.
For more crash investigations, subscribe to the channel, like this video and share it. Tell us what to investigate next in the comments. Thank you for watching and stay safe.
Thank you for watching the Flight Decoder. Subscribe for more authentic aviation investigations. Like this video, share it, and leave your thoughts.